Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode of Best of British Blackwell this weekend. This is the one you've been waiting for. I'm going to be making a beef Wellington today. This has been requested a few times, but more recently requested by a good friend of mine, Nicky Garrard. So Nick, hope you enjoy it. I'm not going to say this is easy to make. It's probably one of the more complex dishes that I've attempted, but the end result is well worth waiting for. So come over, take a look at the ingredients and we'll make a start. Okay, so here are our ingredients. This is the basic ingredients for the Wellington. I've got some spring onions here. Now some people tend to use shallots or onions. I'm going to be using spring onions. I've got some close cut mushrooms and a clove of garlic here as well. That's going to go on the outside of the Wellington. Key ingredient obviously is some lovely fillet steak, or tenderloin if you like to call it that. I haven't got a massive piece here, there's only two of us eating this, so it's going to be just right for two people. I finally got some mustard, some salt and pepper, and some puff pastry to go around the outside. As an added twist, you'll see a lot of recipes where they use prosciutto or Parma ham to cover the beef just after sealing. I'm going to have a slight British variation on this, hence it being Best of British Blackwell. I'm going to use some streaky bacon on there, which I've kind of dehydrated a little bit by having in the oven for about 10 minutes at 80 degrees. So nice and simple to start really. Over on the cooker, which I'll show you in a minute, I've got a pan getting nice and hot in readiness for this beef. All we need to do is give it a real decent season all over. Plenty of salt, plenty of pepper, both ends, both sides. Nothing worse than under-seasoned beef, especially a lovely joint like a fillet like we've got here. Give it a good roll around in all that seasoning. Make sure you get every single end covered. Okay, so the beef's lovely and seasoned up. Now we take it from its plate into a nice hot pan. Get the pan as hot as you can. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sear this beef for around about 30 seconds on either side. Just using my tongs to move the beef around and finish it off. And I think we are just about done with the searing. Okay, now our beef has had a lovely sear. You can still see the pepper kernels still on there. That's beautiful. What we do is we take some classic Coleman's English mustard, a nice brush, and we coat this piece of beef up with a lovely coating of classic hot English mustard, and that really adds beautiful flavour dimension to this dish. There we go. Our beef is completely covered in the mustard. Now we're ready just to set this to one side and make a start on our stuffing, which is going to sit around the outside of the beef. So moving on to the stuffing, this is the part where you start to use the mushrooms and the onions. So I'm using spring onions here because I think they give quite a nice light taste, other than instead of using shallots or onions. One clove of garlic going in there, quite a large clove of garlic. And then just chop your mushrooms up to make them easily fit in here. But these are close cut mushrooms. You can use any mushroom really, but I like to use the darker textured mushrooms in this because they just look a bit better. I think we'll fit them all in there. Now just get them all into your food processor or grinder or blender. And what you're looking to get this down to is quite a fine textured paste really. Sorry, forgot to add as well a little bit more seasoning in the way of pepper. I'm not going to add any more salt now because we've got some bacon going on there, which is going to be quite salty, and just a little glug of Worcester sauce to help it grind down. Help if I turn it on, wouldn't it? Okay, so now we're completely blended. This is what we're left with. Look at that. Doesn't look too appealing at the moment, does it? And it's still quite quite watery at the moment, but what I'm going to show you is the technique to draw the moisture out of this, and that's to get it straight back into that pan that we used to sear the beef off. So that's what we're going to do next. Here we go. So as you can see, this pan's very, very hot. I'm just going to turn it down a little tad. And what's happened is the moment that you've put the chopped mushrooms and garlic in there, you should be able to see some moisture bubbles just come into the top here. And that is the mushrooms releasing all of their moisture. The reason that we do this is because obviously we're going to encase this Wellington inside pastry. We don't want the pastry to go soggy. Also, the meat's going to release a lot of its juices. So you have to remove the moisture from this part of the ingredient so that it doesn't completely flood the dish. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the next step now. I did tell you that this was more complicated than one of my usual dishes. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap the beef in the bacon and the mushroom stuffing. So what I do is take the bacon here and just layer it onto some cling film. Just laid out on this chopping board. It's going to make it much easier to roll. Just overlap it so that it gives us a nice kind of even texture to roll this beef up into. Like I said, I put this bacon in the oven on 80 degrees, a very low heat, for about 10 or 15 minutes. So it's not cooked, but it's certainly not raw. It's going to have that kind of, it was kind of really to dry out. So I've taken it out of the oven every couple of minutes to remove the texture, the moisture from it as well. So that's, we'll see if that was a good idea in a minute. Our next step is to take our mushroom mixture, which, you know, I agree doesn't look too appetizing at the moment, but I promise you it will taste fantastic. Take our mushroom mixture, just put it completely smack bang in the middle of the bacon. Get every last bit of that, we don't want to waste any. And now with our spreader, I'm just going to evenly spread this out across all of the bacon. That looks lovely. And finally, what we're going to do now is get our piece of beef, stick it straight in the middle, and wipe my hands. And now we're going to start to wrap this in the bacon. So I'm just going to use this cling film to get a decent twist on this. Give it a twist, get it over there, and now get the sides tucked in as well. Get it nice and tight. And then with the sides, once the sides are tucked in, just twist the cling film on either end. There we go. Now with that, we stick that in the fridge and let that chill, and it will hold its shape once we come to roll it in the pastry. Okay, so our beef Wellington roll has been in the fridge now for about 20 minutes. Just enough time to let it chill and toughen up a little bit. What we're going to do now is I've got my puff pastry rolled out here on another piece of cling film. What I'm going to do is take the rolled meat and bacon, whack it towards the back end of the pastry first of all. Then what I'm going to do is get my pastry brush and a tiny little cup full of milk here. You can use egg white as well if you need to, or egg wash. I'm just going to go around the outsides, just wetting the outside of the pastry, and this will make sure we get a decent seal on the Wellington, because you don't want any of these juices escaping once they're in there. So that's that. Very good. Final bit of seasoning over the top, and then what we're going to do is replicate what we did with the bacon earlier, which is get this pastry nice and tight and wrap it using the cling film. Put the pastry nice and tight in there. You'll see I've got more pastry than I actually need here. I'm just going to make sure it goes nice and tight over, so I get my pastry brush again. Just paste in here. And I'm going to just roll it all the way. Then we tuck the edges in. And tuck the edges in this side here as well. We get our cling film again. Roll it. Sorry, I'm just going to roll this backwards a little bit. Move it back. Cling film over the top. Tuck it and roll it again, making sure you've got plenty of cling film either side, because we're going to roll the corners again just to make it nice and neat. Okay, so we are now ready to prepare this beef Wellington for the oven. As you can see, it's been wrapped up in the cling film here just to maintain a nice shape. What I'm going to do is spin this over, get it out of the cling film. I did end up putting 2 lots of cling film on here. I'm going to get my tray ready for it to go onto. Nearly there. Tricky bit, transferring it onto the tray without damaging the shape of it too much, but I'm sure we will get there. There we go. And I'm sure you will agree it's looking pretty decent. I'm not going to mess with it too much. What I am going to do is give it a wash over with some egg yolk. So just coat the whole thing with a decent coating of egg yolk, and all that's going to do is going to help this brown off. It's going to come out of this oven beautifully brown. Actually nearly forgot, obviously need to put some silly chefy design on here, so I'm just going to get my knife and I'm going to cut or score some crisscross design on here so that it looks the part as well. I'm going to go across here. You don't have to do this. I think it would come out just as well if you didn't. But it's not often you get to make one of these, so you probably want it to look the part when it comes out onto the table. I certainly do. Last couple. And then finally, decent crack of salt over the top. Last quick run over with the egg wash. And I'm going to stick this in the oven now for about 25 minutes. Okay, so it's time for the moment of truth. It's been in the oven for about 25-30 minutes. We're going to take it out and see how it looks. There we have it. Lovely golden brown pastry, looking really nice, feeling nice and solid as well. The key thing to a beef Wellington is that you let it rest now. It's a piece of really nice expensive beef in there, so you don't want to ruin it by carving into it straight away. You want to let all the juices from that beef extract themselves and then soak themselves straight back into the meat again. You've got a decent pastry crust here which is going to hold all of those juices in. Hopefully you can see by the lack of juices on this tray that the pastry's done exactly what it needs to. It's kept all the moisture in. So basically just be patient, give it 10 or 15 minutes to rest, and then we're going to be carving this open. Okay, so I've started to carve into this now. As you can imagine, there's a lot of ingredients at the end here, and we're not quite into the beef yet, but here we go. Take a look at that. That is precisely what you are looking for. That is a lovely, lovely piece of beef in the middle of beautiful pastry with a lovely bit of bacon in there as well. You've got that lovely mushroom stuffing around the outside. The pastry stayed nice and crispy. All that remains now is to serve this up with some lovely roast potatoes, carrots and peas, and a lovely bit of gravy. There we go, ladies and gents, there you have it. This is beef Wellington, served with carrots, roast potatoes and peas. You've got that lovely mushroom stuffing around the outside. The beef, as you can see, is medium rare in there, which is lovely. I'm just going to add a little dollop of gravy in there as well. So, finally, all that remains for me to say is, Mickey G, thank you for the suggestion. I hope you enjoy making it as much as I enjoyed making it. And there we go. Worthy of MasterChef, I reckon. Give it a go at home. Good stuff.